Welcome to my channel, detailing events throughout the decades. 1945 Hiroshima and Nagasaki. On 6 August 1945, during World War II, an American B-29 bomber dropped the world's first atomic bomb over the Japan city of Hiroshima. The explosion from the bomb wiped out 90% of the city, and immediately killed 80,000 people. Tens of thousands of people would later die due to radiation exposure. 3 days later, another B-29 bomber dropped another A-bomb on Nagasaki, killing 40,000 people. Japan's Emperor, Hirohito, announced his country's unconditional surrender in World War II. He cited in a radio address on 15 August, of a new and most cruel bomb. Before the outbreak of World War II in 1939, a group of American scientists, many of them refugees from Europe, became concerned with nuclear weapon research being conducted by Nazi Germany. In 1940, U.S. government began funding its own atomic weapons development program. This was codenamed the Manhattan Project. Over the next several years, the scientists worked on producing key materials in nuclear fission: uranium-235 and plutonium Pu-239. They were sent to New Mexico, where they worked to turn these materials into a workable atomic bomb. On 16 July 1945, the first successful test of the atomic bomb was held at Trinity Test Site, New Mexico. By the time the atomic bomb was tested, Allied powers had already defeated Germany. Japan had vowed to fight till the very end, even though clear indications showed that they had little chance of winning. General Douglas MacArthur and other top military commanders favored continuing with the bombing of Japan, followed by a massive invasion. This had been codenamed Operation Downfall. It was advised at the time that the invasion would result in thousands of U.S. casualties. To avoid such a high rate of casualties, President Harry Truman needed to use the atomic bomb, even though some had reservations over this. These reservations were made by Henry Stimson, General Dwight Eisenhower, and several of the scientists. Hiroshima was selected as the first target. The B-29 bomber dropped the bomb, known as Little Boy, by parachute at 8:15 in the morning. It exploded 2,000 feet above Hiroshima, destroying 5 square miles of the city. On 9 August, another B-29 bomber flew to Nagasaki, where the bomb, known as Fat Man, was dropped. It was 11:02 in the morning. It was more powerful than the one dropped at Hiroshima. However, because Nagasaki is nestled in narrow valleys between mountains, it reduced the bomb's effect. 2.6 square miles were destroyed in the bomb's blast. On 15 August, Emperor Hirohito announced his country's surrender in a radio broadcast. News quickly spread. The formal surrender agreement was signed on September 2, aboard the U.S. battleship Missouri, which was anchored in Tokyo Bay. The bomb that hit Hiroshima incinerated everything within 4.4 miles of ground zero. To the crew of the bomber responsible, Hiroshima had disappeared under thick flames and smoke. Captain Robert Lewis said, "My God, what have we done?" About 30 minutes after the explosion, heavy rain began to fall. This rain was full of dirt, dust and soot, along with radioactive particles, that had been sucked up into the air at the time of the explosion. It caused areas, which were remote from the explosion, to be contaminated also. A young Japanese officer had been instructed to fly immediately to Hiroshima. He was to land, and survey the damage, before returning and reporting what he'd seen to Tokyo. Those at headquarters didn't believe anything serious had happened. The pilot and his staff officer were 100 miles from Hiroshima, when they witnessed a huge cloud of smoke. Hiroshima was burning. The plane landed. The staff officer began to organize relief measures, and reported this back to Tokyo. Those who survived sought relief from their injuries. 90% of medical personnel had been killed or disabled. Medical supplies soon began to run out. In 1958, the population of Hiroshima had reached 410,000, finally exceeding what it was before the effects of the war. Rebuilding Hiroshima over the decades was successful. By 1979, the difference between Hiroshima was remarkable. Those survivors who are still alive today are now quite elderly. Some are still dealing with the after-effects of the bomb. However, even though it is painful for those affected to tell their stories, they do so to help the next generation understand how important it is to have peace in the world. Hiroshima Peace Memorial Park, is a memorial park in the center of Hiroshima. It is dedicated to the legacy of Hiroshima, as the first city in the world to have suffered a nuclear attack. This memorial is visited by thousands of people every year. Nagasaki Peace Park, is comprised of 2 parks and memorial museum. It commemorates those who died in the atomic bomb on 9 August 1945. Thousands visit the tranquil park to pay their respects to those who died on that fateful day. Forever remembering those who died during the attacks at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We also forever remember those who lost their lives in the war. Thank you for watching, and learning about events throughout history.